So going into the second half of this season, what do the Revolution and first-year head coach, Coach Marco, have to do to get to the playoffs?
Well, he's done an incredible job. Let's be honest. They're right now sitting pretty in the Eastern Conference at fourth place. So if you look at their home record, 7 wins out of 8. I mean that speaks for itself. How he's been able to own the home field advantage, which I think past successful Revs teams have done extremely well. So kudos to Marco and the way that he's handled himself. I also love the fact that they've started off this second half of the season with the whole, hey, next match on us. They're expecting 10,000 new fans to come to Gillette Stadium because we saw for the World Cup, it was sensational. Everyone loved Gillette Stadium, Boston Stadium, and everyone loved coming to celebrate the game and seeing some of the biggest stars in the world. How do you encapsulate that energy and that enthusiasm and bring it to the Revs games, right? Because if you do that, now you have a spectacle. And I think for a long time we're getting 30,000 fans. Now the Revs have to capitalize on the players that they have. And I think goal scoring is going to be a big way to make sure that energy, that the way that this team can play to their potential can basically sail into the playoffs.
Well, you mentioned it right there, so I want to hear a little bit more about it. Saturday's game, the Revs are participating in First Match on Us, essentially giving away tickets to 10,000 fans. If it's your first game, your first Revolution game, they want new fans in. So tell us more about what went into that and what it's going to look like on Saturday.
Well, it's a league-wide initiative, right? So you're thinking about, for anyone, wow, this World Cup blew the socks off of any sports enthusiast. By the way, there are a number of New England doubters who are like, this is going to be hell for us on traffic, and everyone's going to be throwing all their about me,
and I was
exactly. You were proven wrong. And it feels so good for people that were kind of like, I don't know about this soccer thing. But I think what's so revolutionary, and no pun intended, for this club is that they have 15,000 signups. And the idea is if you have not been to a Revs game, if you're not in the database, there'll be 2 free tickets for everyone. Wow. That's phenomenal. So I think for the Revs, they're thinking over at least 30,000 people in the stadium, and about 20 to 30% are going to be first timers. So now, don't disappoint, right? So let's get a win. Let's get a lot of goals. Let's make it fun. But I think what fans always notice about Revs game is it's free parking, so easy with the access, and kids have a great time. So I hope they can bottle that up and put in a fantastic performance.
I can attest to that. My kid is a soccer junkie, Charlie. You'd be so proud. He's a good player, too, and we go to Revs games, and he has the time of his life. So you're right about that. I want to backtrack a little because I sensed some pride in your voice. Look, you're a New Englander yourself, native New Englander. Talk to me about how proud you were of Boston as a host city during the World Cup. All 3 of us up here have talked about how good of a job Boston did during this thing.
Yeah, well, you got to think, I grew up in New Hampshire, and I think of every state within New England has helped me become the person and the player that I eventually became. So I'm so grateful, and you could see it. Whenever I talk about New England and Boston and New Hampshire, it's with immense pride. And so some of the struggles that I had early on in my life, this sport basically kept me on the straight and narrow path to success. And I always think about some of the times where people would laugh about me playing soccer. Hey, it's not a sport that's going to get you anywhere. You can't live off of being a professional soccer player. Some of these comments that you would expect from 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids back in the day. But to see how New England embraced the World Cup in a way that is so much more surmountable than it was in 1994. I mean, it feels sustainable, that energy and the love. I think what stood out to me is, one, for sure, America embraced the sport and America embraced the world, especially given a lot of the turmoil politically. You didn't hear anything about politics throughout the past 6 weeks. It was all, hey, let's experience your cultures. Let's hear your different language. Hey, come check out New England. Come have some clam chowder. Come try the seafood, the lobsters. Come check out Boston Common. For me, how could you not walk away from this summer's tournament and think, man, New England showed out to the whole entire world. And I can't tell you how many people from, guys I've played with in Europe, Sweden, Denmark, Scandinavia, France, that have talked about, man, my family or my friends went to Massachusetts and they have nothing but the best things to say about it. Hey, by the way, are the Revs looking for a player? So that's kind of the energy that puts a big smile on my face every single day.
Yeah, especially the Scottish fans. You saw them come to Boston, and that became a national.
Drink all the beer.
Yeah, international phenomenon all over the world. People watching this and saying, "Oh, well, Boston." A lot of people saying, "Actually, people in Boston are very nice." I was surprised.
Shocking.
A lot of people,
the world.
Shocking to everybody, just blown away by how nice people are here, but also America as a whole, saying, "Actually, Americans are nice." I stopped and someone gave me directions, and they were so nice. What was it like for you to see all of that, but also do you think it's going to remain and soccer will grow in popularity here?
Yes. Well, one, I think I didn't know how bad the perception of the United States was around the world. And obviously the media shapes that from around the world outside the United States. And so it's so easy to say, hey, gun violence is crazy in the United States. Things are upside down. The left is fighting the right, and it's clear every single day. And when people came to the country and they visited different states and people went on road trips, the experiences that they had of interacting with Americans was nothing but love and appreciation and gratitude. And for the rest of the world, they thought, how could media put the United States in such a bad category and make it out to be such a horrible place when this is the best place in the world? And so for me, as an American, having represented the United States in the Olympics and playing in FIFA sanctioned competitions, it's almost like, what do you think I've been telling you my whole life? This place is amazing. And sure, we can improve. Sure, there are struggles and challenges that every country has, including ours. But to think about what we have as a country, the freedoms that we have, and the education that we have, I could not be more thankful and grateful for what this country provides. And still, of course, we have a long way to go to being the perfect country that we can be in terms of fulfilling our potential. But from that standpoint, phenomenal. And then I think from an MLS standpoint, you have all these players coming to the country with their families and fans, and they go, oh my God, the stadiums, the infrastructure is phenomenal. Yeah. MLS did the best out of all the top five leagues in Europe. If you take that out of the picture, MLS represented the absolute best in almost every single category. So now you're talking about attracting the best talent. It's going to be pretty easy. Now, you talked about Scotland. Scotland has two of the biggest clubs in the world, Glasgow Rangers and Glasgow Celtic. Yep. But if you play for one of those clubs or you play in that league, if you're thinking, hey, do I want to play in MLS? Do I want to play in Scotland? Well, they're probably going to want to come to the Major League Soccer now. So now you have to stand the chance of bringing in some of the best players, even in the top five leagues. If you're in a middle team or a lower team, you're thinking, hey, the time that we had in America was phenomenal. By the way, we know they have state-of-the-art facilities. This might be the place for me. So that's another reason why I'm so excited.
Well, you talk about the player transfer window essentially opening up and how the World Cup can be such a driver in bringing some of the best talent to the United States, to MLS. For the Revs specifically, in this player transfer window, what are they looking for? What can actually turn them into a bona fide playoff team and a contender moving forward?
Well, for me, it's the goal scoring category. So I know last season they brought in Leo Campana, who had played at Inter Miami, kind of got pushed to the side, was initially a starter, then kind of phased out, just hasn't been healthy. And so if you're counting on someone that you spent a great deal to get, that's a big issue. And then you say, okay, we got Turgeman to come in and kind of Dor Turgeman, the Israeli international, to come in and pick up the slack as a young player, 22 years old. a lot of potential, but 14 games played and only 2 goals to show for it, right? So for me, goal scoring is going to be something that the Revs have to figure out. And Carlos Gil is still one of the best midfielders in the world. I call him the little magician. He always figures out a way. But I'm excited for the Revs, and you know why? A player that I grew up playing with, Chris Tierney, is now the general manager. He got promoted recently, and we were competitors in youth soccer, then eventually teammates, competitors in high school, competitors in college, and then teammates for the Revs. And now he's in a prime position to change the way that business is done and the way that players are acquired. And he's seen some of the guys that have come overseas to the Revs and to MLS who have just not lived up to expectations. So I think he has a good understanding of which players can succeed in the league, but also succeed in New England and settling in. So I'm excited for this. And then again, to your point, how do we maximize with all the atmosphere that we produce for this World Cup and the energy and the excitement? Well, the Revs just have to win. Yep. New England loves teams that win. So let's get that first MLS Cup, and then the coast is clear. By the way, we got a stadium in 2 or 3 years coming out.
Love it.
In Everett. Yep. I think that's going to be a game changer.
For sure. Hey, listen, you sort of answered my next question, at least a part of it. I was going to ask you, as close as you are to this team, now that we're in the second half of the season, what do you see that this team needs to kind of work on to get to that promised land? You mentioned the goal scoring. Are there other things? Give me some bullet points here of what you see that this team needs to adjust or get better at, improve at to get to that next level.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Matt Turner, right? The backup goalie for the national team in this World Cup, the starter in the last World Cup in 2022 in Qatar. They brought him back, and it feels like this is going to be a long-term move and not just a prolonging of the loan that he has with his French club Lyon. You don't want to have to rely on Matt Turner to make incredible saves. And I guess a case in point is Spain. You see Unai Simon, he wins Golden Gloves, but he didn't have to be challenged all that much. And that's because they controlled the ball. They controlled the tempo. And if the other team doesn't have the ball, how are they going to score goals? And that's what you saw from Spain. They were so dominant. So from this Revs team, I'd love to see them keep possession and higher up the field so that when you do lose it, the teams have to go 80 yards to score a goal. And I think the more times that you can control games and control tempo in the attacking half, the less opportunities you're going to give up and concede. So I think that's what I'd love to see from the Revs this second half of the season is, can they control the game in the attacking half and keep possession and get teams to chase? And when you have a player like Carlos Gil, more times than not, you're going to be able to find outlets. Then it's maximizing on those chances in the goal department, which I spoke on earlier. They can keep the ball, but they're not really creating dangerous chances and then finishing the chances when they get them. If they can do that, this team goes from hanging around and being a playoff team, which they absolutely are, to actually contenders. Because right now they're not real Eastern Conference contenders. I'd love to see them bring in a player or two to help Carlos Gil, but that remains to be seen. I have faith in my guy, Chris Tierney.
No doubt. Charlie, your family here to us on Boston has entered the chat, so we're going to bring you back. Don't think now that the World Cup is over. You're going to work less. We're going to work the hell out of you and talk Revs with you all season long, man. We appreciate it.
Anytime. Hey, literally anytime. I'm down. If Nesson wants to talk soccer, I'm in. I'm a New Englander for life. This is a rarity. I'm going to make the most of it. So call me up.
Love it.
Charlie,
Love
thank
family.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, guys.